I think he's this, I think he's, I don't care what you think.
We don't want to live in a country like that. It's that simple. We don't want to live in a country like that.
There is a man languishing in prison. Let's put them in prison, okay? Make them as worried about their future, their freedom, as Garcia has to be.
That's a gray area. That's not a gray area. Say it with your whole chest. Grow a set of balls.
Anytime anybody challenges a Democratic incumbent, oh, I guess you want Democrats to lose. Well, hey, idiot, why don't you actually stop lying to your audience and explain what a primary is? When it's a Democrat versus another Democrat, and you're trying to pick the best Democrat instead of your buddy who's a corrupt piece of crap who's ruined the Democratic Party, but you love that, right? If you're mainstream media. Well, those guys love money in politics, and that money in politics comes to us, and we get super rich off of that money in politics. So shh, and if you dare challenge the way the Democratic Party is run, you're against Democrats. So if you fall for that BS, you deserve the Democratic Party we have now, which is in total disarray, in total collapse, because both Democratic establishment figures like Hakeem Jeffries and mainstream media reporters like Jonathan Karl come out and constantly tell you, you better vote for those Democratic incumbents, you better do it. Now, they don't say that, but they frame it in a way that leads you to believe that, right? So why don't you tell the whole truth?
The other side is making a very legitimate argument about the right to due process if you get processed and shipped out of the country and put in a prison in El Salvador. We have to make sure that these people are actually guilty, otherwise we become monsters. You can't, like, what is that, when you fight monsters, be careful that you don't become one?
Become one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very important. It's very important. You can't do that.
It is not an immigration issue. It's a due process issue.
Yes.
Rogan's 100% right. It doesn't matter who Abrego Garcia is, and all of that is for the courts to decide, not for yahoos on X and Instagram to decide, right? Like, oh, I think he's this, I think he's, I don't care what you think. Sorry, okay? And by the way, the court shouldn't care what I think either. They should do a real process, because this isn't about his rights, this is about our rights.
Exactly.
Because as Rogan is pointing out here, if he doesn't have due process, we don't have due process. Period, guys. You have to get that through your head. If the concept of due process does not exist anymore, it doesn't exist for anyone. That means you don't have to go to court to arrest anyone, deport anyone, etc.
It just means that the government, okay, the big bad government that conservatives complain about all the time, can literally unilaterally point to anyone, accuse them of anything, and punish them without due process. We don't want to live in a country like that. It's that simple. We don't want to live in a country like that. Look, I know all about the reports in regard to Abrego Garcia, right? His wife had pursued a restraining order against him, yada yada. I get all that. I'm not like someone who's sitting here specifically to talk about what a stand-up guy Abrego Garcia is. It's not about him in particular. It's about the rule of law and the fact that there is a process in place to prevent innocent people from getting inaccurately accused of crimes they did not commit and then being punished for crimes they did not commit. The IDF's investigation determined after the fact that 6 of the 15 killed workers were Hamas members, but whatever evidence they have for that is unclear. And I'm gonna go ahead and make a bold prediction and say they don't have any. Now, following the incident, the deputy battalion commander who led the attack was dismissed from the IDF for professional failures. He should be in prison for the rest of his life. Okay, he is responsible for the slaughter of innocent people. He should be in prison for the rest of his life. He robbed innocent people of their lives. And I know that this happens every day in Gaza to the point where a lot of people are just desensitized to it at this point. But at what point are we gonna get any justice for the innocent lives that have been slaughtered by members of the IDF? This wasn't just simply a professional failure. This was an intentional slaughter. While the Israeli military stated that it regrets the harm caused to uninvolved civilians, it argued its soldiers were conducting a vital mission targeting Hamas terrorists and reiterated the claim that Hamas uses medical and humanitarian infrastructure for terrorism, including using ambulances to transport terrorists and weapons. That's complete and utter BS, and we all know it. We all know it. They didn't kill any Hamas members. I mean, just think about it in our own context. Seriously. If a local police force decided to, for 3.5 minutes, indiscriminately shoot at an ambulance truck, and then the first responders who come to save individuals from that ambulance truck. If those cops told us, well, we suspected, those ambulance trucks were full of MS-13 gang members. I mean, we didn't ask any questions. We just started shooting, and then we reloaded and kept shooting. And then more people came and we killed them too. Would we buy that argument? Would we buy that argument? Okay, for the right wingers out there, if the cops had done that to a car carrying a family of sovereign citizens, okay, they might believe in that ideology, but there's no evidence that they've done anything wrong. They're not harming anybody, but the cops just decide to open fire, shoot at them anyway, and kill them. Would we be okay? Would you accept the argument that, well, the police suspected that these sovereign citizens might have caused some harm in the future? You wouldn't buy that argument because that's unjust. That type of injustice is not accepted in any other context except when Israel carries it out for whatever reason. And it's because for decades, our media has conditioned Americans to be good little boys and girls who accept the depravity of the Israeli government. But let's keep it real. Killing aid workers like this brazenly and really not suffering any real consequences for it is pretty disgusting. But we'll keep funneling our precious resources, tax dollars, and weapons to the Israeli government, to the IDF, so they can continue the slaughter. So they finally grab hold of the Gaza Strip, take control of that land, and get what they've always wanted to begin with. But if anyone has any question about what my thoughts are toward people who are still defending what the Israeli government is doing to the Palestinian people in Gaza, I think they're bad people. And I mean that. I think they're depraved. I think they lack morality. I think they've lost their humanity and their ability to see the humanity in others. And honestly, I think they're evil. I think if you see what's happening on the ground in Gaza right now, you see those images, you see those bodies, and you think it's totally fine. This is what Israel needs to do. You're a bad person. Let me ask you something. What if the administration makes another administrative error? And in this administrative error, they, accidentally deport an American citizen who's done absolutely nothing wrong to El Salvador. Is the Trump administration then going to claim, oh, there's nothing we can do? There's nothing we can do. Is that what we're gonna hear?
I assume it would be exactly the same as this.
So Donald Trump, who managed to free American prisoners in places like Russia, is somehow unable to convince his close ally, Bukele, to release the guy that his administration accidentally deported.
I understand you're a naturally suspicious person, and so I think you're looking for possible deception from Trump, but I take him at his word that he's an impotent, flaccid little weenie who can't do literally anything in this case. He just can't do anything. El Salvador's so strong, Bukele's so scary. I can't do anything, get off my back about it. And I trust him in that. I think he's exactly that weenie.
The real question is, what happens if the administration continues to refuse to comply? And that's where the concerns about a potential constitutional crisis come up.
Yeah, no, we're deep into the constitutional crisis. And so, look, I like the strong language, but what are the consequences if and when inevitably they don't comply with it? Are there going to be any? I mean, a crime was committed. There is a victim who could die at any moment. They directly contradicted, as Tom Homan pointed out, Garcia had due process. Yes, he did. 6 years ago.
Exactly, yeah.
He did then. You guys broke the law in violating that. A crime was committed, someone needs to suffer the consequences for that. And I don't know exactly who that is, but I would imagine the three people most in charge of this area of Trump policy, which is Stephen Miller, as like his head of the mass deportation, Tom Homan, his border czar, and Pam Bondi, the head of the DOJ.
Yep.
They are refusing to comply with this. They are saying we are going to violate the law again, so threaten to throw them in jail. They've already violated the law. They're saying they're gonna do it again. Either you have authority as a judge or you don't. And so there has to be actual consequences. This can't just be rulings, harshly worded letters and things like that. There is a man languishing in prison. Yeah. Let's put them in prison, okay? Make them as worried about their future, their freedom, as Garcia has to be, or Garcia's wife, whose life has been put in jeopardy by the DHS, by putting out her address. So she now has to flee to a safe house because Trump fans might literally track her down and kill her for being an inconvenient victim.
It would have been so easy, just bring him back, comply with the court, and move on. But that's the thing, that's the thing that's so frustrating about the Trump administration. There's never any willingness to take any responsibility. Let's see what Trump loyalist Charlie Kirk has to say about what happened to Turk. He's getting some props for this. Let's see if he deserves it.
Deporting somebody because they wrote an op-ed critical of Israel, I think that's probably in the gray area.
So would you say that there's some things that the administration's done on immigration where you think they haven't been sufficiently respectful of First Amendment rights? Is that fair to say?
No, I wouldn't even say that. I would say that we run a little bit of a problem if we are going to say that the criteria to get your visa revoked is writing an op-ed. Now, that might be an exaggeration by somebody.
Yeah.
Right. But if the op-ed was not even critical of America, which it was critical of a foreign country.
So why is this a gray area, Charlie? Why is this a gray area? It's not a gray area. So we're not allowed to be critical of a foreign country? We're not allowed to write an op-ed criticizing the way Israel is carrying out that war in Gaza? That's a gray area? That's not a gray area. Say it with your whole chest. I know you're afraid that the Trump loyalists are gonna come for you the way leftists have come for me when I, attack one of the sacred cows. But grow a set of balls, okay? Don't give this mealy mouth response to what's actually happening here. It's not a gray area. It is a violation of American values, of what this country allegedly represents. Say it. It's not a gray area.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.